If you are someone who spends a lot of time on the internet following world news, it has become more than obvious at this point that anytime something tragic in the world happens, there will always be conspiracy theories being peddled heavily online claiming to be the truth. We have seen these types of conspiracy theories time and time again, whether it be conspiracy theories about natural disasters, or conspiracy theories about terrorist attacks, or conspiracy theories about disease outbreaks. And this recent coronavirus outbreak that is all over the news since December sure has fueled a lot of conspiracy theories and opened a door to a lot of con artists using it for their own benefits. There have been many conspiracy theories peddled about the coronavirus, with some conspiracy theorists claiming it was a bioweapon created by China to use in warfare, and others claiming it was created by the United States to make China look bad, and others claiming that the virus doesn't even exist at all and is basically just a hoax. But out of all the conspiracy theories to be heavily peddled on the internet, none of them come as close to being as dumb and ridiculous as the theory that I'm going to be addressing in the video, and that is the conspiracy theory that 5G is actually what's causing the coronavirus. Ever since 5G started being introduced in 2019, there have been dozens of conspiracy theories being peddled heavily online that 5G radiations are going to harm human beings and possibly even kill us, despite all the scientific evidence saying otherwise. There is literally no evidence that 5G radiation is going to harm us, and all the scientific evidence clearly points to 5G being completely safe. Just like its predecessors, 5G uses radio signals over a range of frequency bands to transmit and receive voice and data by communicating with base stations, which are stationary radio transmitters with antennas mounted on masts or buildings. The radio waves transmitted by the base stations are a form of non-ionizing electromagnetic radiation, which falls at the lower end of the naturally occurring electromagnetic spectrum. Non-ionizing radiation is too weak to affect chemical bonds and therefore cannot cause damage to the DNA or tissues of the human body. Non-ionizing radiation includes infrared, ultraviolet, and visible light, FM radio and Wi-Fi signals, in comparison to ionizing radiation, which includes gamma and X-rays and can cause cancer and other health issues. Ionizing radiation can detach electrons from atoms or molecules, whereas non-ionizing cannot. Seeing that 5G uses low radio frequency that falls under non-ionizing electromagnetic radiation, the chances of it harming you is low. The only possible thing it can do to your body is a very slight heating, with heating levels that couldn't possibly kill you unless you were stupid enough to stick your head right next to the mast. The sun, the light bulbs in your house, and microwaves in your kitchen have greater radiation levels that are more likely to kill you. However, despite all of these scientific facts, that doesn't stop the conspiracy theorists from peddling their own pseudoscience to fearmonger about 5G. And with these recent conspiracy theories about it causing the coronavirus, it looks like the 5G conspiracy theories aren't going to be dying anytime soon. First and foremost, there is literally no evidence whatsoever that 5G radio frequencies are causing the COVID-19 symptoms that we see people getting infected with. As I have argued before in older videos, what can be asserted without evidence can also be dismissed without evidence. It shouldn't even have to be argued that radio frequencies do not cause viruses, there is literally no evidence of that. Viruses have existed long throughout all of human history, long before radio frequencies were even a thing. Radio frequency began in the 20th century. I'm pretty sure radio frequencies weren't what caused the outbreak of the measles disease in Persia back in the 9th century. I'm also sure it wasn't radio frequencies that caused the outbreak of smallpox in Egypt and India 3,000 years ago, or the Black Death in Europe and Asia during the mid-1300s. Now I'm sure some conspiracy theorists would try to argue that radio frequencies are causing viruses just because in the years 2003 and 2009 both 3G and 4G were introduced, and those same years the SARS outbreak and swine flu both happened. However, what these people don't seem to understand is that causation doesn't equal correlation. That would be like arguing that marriage rates decreasing in Kentucky is what's causing less fishing boats deaths just because both have decreased over the decades. Or that peanut butter ended the Second Sino-Japanese War just because the war ended the same year peanut butter came out. Furthermore, 3G didn't come out in China until 2008, whereas SARS broke out in the country in 2002, long before China installed 3G. Furthermore, what caused the SARS outbreak is believed to be an animal virus from possibly bats that passed it on to cats. And as for 4G causing swine flu goes, the swine flu had already broken out in the United States before it was even launched in the country. The swine flu broke out in America and Mexico on April of 2009, with the cause being the influenza variant subtype H1N1, and it wasn't until later into the year that 4G was launched. So regardless of what conspiracy theorists might try to tell you, there is no evidence that radio frequencies cause viruses. They have existed long throughout history for different reasons, and none of the virus outbreaks in recent decades have had any connections to radio frequencies. Another major problem with these conspiracy theories about 5G causing coronavirus is that there are countries that don't even have 5G which are suffering high rates of COVID-19 cases, such as Iran and Israel. As of me making this video, Iran has had over 68,192 cases of infections and 4,232 deaths, and Israel has had 10,095 cases and 93 deaths. Neither of the following countries I just mentioned have installed 5G, in fact a huge load of countries outside Europe, East Asia, and North America don't have 5G either. And yet many countries outside those parts of the world are suffering COVID-19 cases. If 5G was causing the coronavirus, then why are we seeing so many infections in countries that don't even have 5G? You'd think that wouldn't even be the case. And not to mention that 5G was already being installed as far back as 2018 and early 2019, whereas the coronavirus outbreak didn't break out until very recently in December. You'd think if 5G radio frequencies were causing the coronavirus, then we would have been seeing reports of the virus much earlier in 2019 before the end of the year. And furthermore, if 5G radio frequencies were causing the coronavirus, then that would mean that quarantining wouldn't even protect us from the virus, meaning people living in countries with 5G installed would still be getting infected from the radio frequency regardless, which clearly doesn't seem to be the case for 5G countries that quarantined early like South Korea. As shown earlier, South Korea has the second most amounts of 5G installed right after China and right above the United States. And yet despite having this amount of 5G installed, their COVID-19 cases that are supposedly caused by 5G have stopped rising. As of me making this video, a total of 10,450 South Koreans have suffered from COVID-19, and only 208 of them have died, with 7,117 of the infected recovering. If 5G was the cause of these infections, then quarantining early wouldn't have helped protect the South Koreans from the 5G radiation that is supposedly causing COVID-19 infections, and they would have had way higher rates of infections and lower rates of recoveries. And considering the fact that China, America, Japan, and South Korea all have the most 5G installations, I'm pretty sure the infection rates and death rates in all those countries would be way worse than what we are seeing at the moment. I'm also pretty sure that every cell culture in every biochemistry lab in the following countries would have immediately started producing the COVID-19 symptoms the second 5G was turned on, and as you'd expect, literally not a single biochemistry lab in any country has noticed that at all. Wow, it's almost like radio frequencies are not what causes viruses or something. It really makes you think. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a deep state shill on a CIA payroll who's only being paid to spread fake news to brainwash the sheeple. Clearly we should all be listening to the real professionals like Debunking, who is responsible for spreading such enlightening truth, like the idea that lizard people run the world. Clearly he knows his shit, unlike the Illuminati shills that we call scientists. Sarcasm aside, I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you for watching. Feel free to like, subscribe and give some feedback because it helps keep me motivated to make videos. That's it with this one, and I'll see you in the next video.